We know that Russia tries to get rid of Ukrainian army in the Kursk Oblast, but for the last 24 hours we have some good news from Kursk for Ukraine. I'm speaking about this northeastern part where Russia uses lots of the aviation landing bombs plus their forces. They have really the assault vector towards the Ukrainian positions, but nevertheless Ukraine took the ground there. And also at least 2 more villages. Here Ukraine has double vector attack, forced Russian to retreat from the place. Before Ukraine was successful in Malaya Lognia by encircling the Russian forces, so Russians were forced to retreat from all of those villages too. So why this area is so important? Because here is the road which goes to Lvov, and there is Kurchatov nuclear power plant not far away. Yes, for now we are not speaking that Ukraine has enough resources to get the nuclear power plant under control, but nevertheless it could be one of the main strategic goals for Ukraine if it gets enough resources, and the Ukrainian victory plan is approved by, first of all, the United States of America. We're gonna speak about that one too in this video. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go. But what's about the Ukrainian attempt to encircle the Russian army in this place? For now Ukraine is standstill. The front lines here and here are boiling, but there is no major movement from either of the sides. I think that after all Ukraine still has the chance to encircle the big Russian group. However, at the same time, we know from the Ukrainian military officials that Russia gathered a large group of their forces. Some say 60,000 soldiers, but it was clarified 41,000 soldiers are presented out there from the Russian side, and they're getting ready for more counter-offensive actions, trying to get rid of the Ukrainian army in the Kursk region. But at the same time, you may see that Ukraine was successful in stopping, for example, this particular vector of the Russian attack. As for the Ukrainian front lines, we have the confirmation of the successful Ukrainian small counteroffensive operation on the northern side of the Bakhmut area. Yesterday this information was shared by the Deep State military map, and today it was confirmed by the other experts. Definitely Ukraine took the ground quite a lot, I would say. But mostly Russia has the initiative in the Ukrainian front lines. We're gonna speak about it also in this video, but for now let's relate to the other very important news. And the news are about the Russian ammunition depots which kaboomed recently. After the quick analysis of the situation, experts say that Russia lost ammunition for 2 up to 4 months of war. And we're speaking about only one ammunition warehouse in Toropets, where Russia stored around 30,000 tons of munition. But later on, at least two more of the ammunition depots were kaboomed by Ukrainian drones. It seems like those, after all, are vulnerable and Russian air defense is unable to protect them. But as usual, Russians say that they've shut down everything, but just imagine this loss for the Russian army. It's definitely huge, and I may definitely call it as a game changer, especially for the winter campaign. Russia will be in lack of the resources. Gerasimov, Shoigu, where is munition? Where Russia is concerned about their air defense is the Kerch Bridge. They put more of the air defense systems and they start to construct some of the big metal constructions which potentially might attract some of the missiles, and you know Russia wouldn't do it without the direct threat for the Kerch Bridge, so their intelligence for sure knows about Ukrainian plans for the Kerch Bridge. They even put those kind of the big cages at the railway part of the bridge. Well, I'm not sure whether those cages will work, but Russia is doing it. Also, as we know, they're blocking the waves for the Ukrainian drone boats. But sometimes those measures do not help, like for example, this happened yesterday with the Russian Azov port. What we know so far that it was attacked by the Ukrainian Neptune missiles, but what was burning out there is yet unknown. About the failed Russian nuclear missile launch, so here is the spot before that event happened and here is after. Something definitely struck the perimeter, and not only. If you look at the picture from this side, you may see that the ICBM debris caused wildfires in the spot. Well, judging on this crater, the main kaboom happened right before the start of the missiles. I think that the rocket fuel kaboomed underground, causing this huge crater. As we understand, ICBMs are usually placed underground. Here it was the test launch, but nevertheless they should outplay the real events. My friends, if you want to support the job that I do daily on YouTube, you may join my Patreon. My Patreon page is available right in the video description below. Thank you so much for maintaining my motivation. Alright, this week is kind of decisive because there will be very important talks about the future of Ukraine and so-called Zelensky's plan for Ukraine's victory. Zelensky Zelensky is already in the United States of America and he will propose this plan to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Zelensky gave the short interview to the New Yorker where he stated that if Joe Biden abandons victory plan, this will lead to a long, exhausting war with many casualties. He also mentioned that the new plan does not require cooperation with the Russian Federation, so partners can act without its participation. Nothing really new here. Ukrainian government doesn't want to negotiate with Russia, with Putin's regime, it's better to say. And here Zelensky speaks about it, any negotiations will fail if they are conducted with Putin. So Zelensky still thinks that Ukraine may handle this long-term war, and definitely it may go for a very, very long term. But the problem here that Russia has many more resources compared to Ukraine, well, combined our allies have many more resources compared to Russia, and the most important stuff is to keep the support of Ukraine. Zelensky is also concerned about the military support, and here we're going to speak a little about the United States politics, but I'll not share my own opinion. It's the opinion of Zelensky. He tells that I feel that Trump really doesn't know how to stop the war, even if he thinks the opposite. So there is really a chance for Trump to become a next United States president. And we see that the Ukrainian government is concerned about it. Again, my friends, those are not my words. You may read it in the article. Well, at the same time, President Biden answered about the long-range weapon permission for Ukraine. He said no, Ukraine haven't obtained that permission from the United States, which makes the chances for the long-lasting war much higher. But we have the encouraging message from the United Kingdom. The head of the foreign ministry said that there are some delicate talks are ongoing around the permission for Ukraine to use the long-range missiles on the Russian territory. Well, actually, United Kingdom encourages the United States to give that permission. Let me also mention that the war in Ukraine will get deeper and tougher in 2025 and 2026. As we see, the United Kingdom also expects the long-lasting war. So in general, according to the Times, the peace plan presented by Zelensky includes the security guarantees from the Western countries similar to the Mutual Defense Pact of NATO, financial assistance for economic recovery, provision of modern-day weaponry, support in the military operation in the Kursk region of Russia, because definitely the war should move to the Russian Federation, otherwise Russians do not feel that war. I told you about it many of the time. So for Ukraine, it's crucial to continue the special military operation inside Russia. And we also see that Putin is not willing to stop. So here are the losses for the vehicles for the last 10 days. We have those day by day. So since 11th of September, Russia lost 633 of the vehicles, Ukraine 317. The losses are roughly 2-1. Before the scale was 3-1, that's because Ukraine is now going on offensive operation in Kursk, where Ukraine loses lots of the vehicles, especially MRAPs. Plus, Ukraine started to use lots of the supply vehicles, and they're also included in the list. Supply vehicles are like, for example, Russian Bukhanka vans. Yes, this one has the tuning, it's the private one, it's not yet been sent to the front lines. I think that it was spotted somewhere in Moscow. Meanwhile, Zelensky visited the local shelling factory in the United States, and we know that the United States increases the production of the artillery shells. Even in the 21st century, with all of those modern-day drone technologies, artillery plays the major role on the battlefield. Alright, it's been confirmed that Ukraine broke through the Russian border in Kursk from one more direction. There is the group of the Ukrainian vehicles which went on fight, and there was the fight against the Russian infantry forces who went in the local tree line. So this is the Ukrainian fighting infantry vehicle, and it fights against the Russian forces. It's been backed up by the drones and artillery fire. In Pokrov's direction, Russia tried to break through using lots of the vehicles. Around 27 of the Russian armored vehicles were counted by Ukrainian side, and luckily this offensive was stopped. Again, Ukraine used the drones to stop this Russian offensive. Those tools are really effective. In Kurakhove direction, Russia also gathered lots of the vehicles in a big convoy, and just look at those. The number of those vehicles, they also were stopped by Ukrainian resistance. As you may see, the first vehicles were capoted on the road, and the rest were finished by the drones. Alright, Wall Street Journal, in reference to the intelligence service, warns some of the NATO countries about the possible strikes from the Russian regime. Well, Russia is not going to use nukes, but they may use cruise missiles together with drones to hit the military bases of NATO, where Ukrainian F-16s are based for maintenance purposes. Yes, the aircraft maintenance is the complicated thing, and there are no such facilities in Ukraine to maintain the F-16s. For this reason, Ukraine may send some of the airplanes to Poland and to Romania. With this possible attack, Russia also wants to escalate even more without using nukes to show the West that Russia has the red lines after all. But we understand that the response for those kind of the actions should be very fast and very hard for Russia. Otherwise, they will just understand that Western countries, together with NATO, are weak and Russia may do everything it wants, not just in Ukraine, but in the other countries too. Right now, let's go to the Ukrainian front lines review. The situation in Vuhledar is really concerning. Russia moved there from this place, so it was yesterday, it is today. We see how they move from both of the sides, trying to encircle Vuhledar, and it's just a matter of time, well, maybe 1 week, then Russia takes Vuhledar under control, and by doing so, they will seize the main defense spot of Ukraine on the southern part of Donetsk Oblast, and after it, there's pretty much a free way for them to go to the north. Vuhledar is important for Ukraine to keep control over the Russian supply lines, which they mainly do by road. For now, Russia is restricted with those supplies because they're located not far away from the Ukrainian control positions, so Ukraine may use artillery to disturb the Russian logistics. And unfortunately, in this case scenario, I don't see the chance for Ukraine to keep Vuhledar under control any longer. Ukraine will just withdraw the forces from the place, and then Russia advances and cuts the supply road. There was also the advancement of the Russian army in Tsakurne, so it was yesterday, it is today. The plan for the Russian army is to encircle this entire region with those very important heights, which Ukraine still keeps under control. By doing this maneuver, potentially Russia creates a huge risk for all of the Ukrainian forces in this place, and there could be a couple of thousand of Ukrainian soldiers. For the last 24 hours, there was no movement of the Russian army towards Pokrovsk, so the good news. But at the same time, Russia moved in Torets. So yesterday, today, so this gray zone is now red, and here Russia moved towards Torets. So yesterday and today, just a light movement, but for the last couple of days, the movement, as you can see, is kind of big. So overall, the situation in the east for Ukraine is not that good. And honestly, I don't see it to change this year. Well, maybe the next year Ukraine will do something with it, then it obtains more weaponry. But again, it all depends on political situation in the United States. The main thing that our Western allies still afraid to give Ukraine all of the permissions and all of the weaponry needed. And also there is the internal problem in Ukraine, like with government, and also Ukrainian army requires reforms. Hopefully everything will be sorted out very soon, because Ukrainian lives depend on that. And my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.